Okay, today we are going to talk about caring for children in terms of babysitting. So, when you meet children for the first time, when you're going over to babysit, so especially if it's a new family, like if it's not someone that is part of your family, like cousins or younger siblings, obviously, if they're meeting you for the very first time, they might react in a couple different ways. So sometimes you get a super friendly greeting and you are automatically their best friend because you are older than they are and you're not their parent. So unfortunately, that's not always the case though, because other times they might be a little bit more shy and withdrawn, which means that, they're just kind of checking you out. They're giving you the side eye a little bit. They don't really know kind of what to expect from you. So they're keeping their eye on you. And then other times you might have like the exact opposite behavior of what you would want, or reaction of what you would want, and the child is crying or upset. Don't take this personally. It's nothing that you have done. They might have just had a bad day. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're tired. And so all of their emotions are just, amplified a little bit, and their parents are leaving, and, maybe they are just really, really attached to their parents at the moment, and they don't want them to leave. What you can try to do is you can try to distract the child with questions, toys, maybe games, so something to take their mind off of the fact that their parents are getting ready to leave them with you, who is kind of a complete stranger to them. So as a babysitter, you can't force a child to like you, but you can do what is in your power to make sure that they feel comfortable with you. So one of the ways that I when I would babysit in the past, would try to get a child comfortable with me is I would just ask them a bunch of questions like, what's your favorite color? How old are you? What toys do you like to play with? What are your favorite games? And I'm telling you, I would come up with about 100 questions, and then before you know it, then they were asking me questions. So sometimes that really worked out well for me. What you need to remember is sometimes when you babysit, you are going to be caring for more than one child. So you might have to divide your attention because children that are of different ages might not enjoy the same activities or have the same needs as other children that you're watching. So back when I used to babysit, for the family that I used to babysit for in Batesville, they had girls who were a couple years apart, and one of them was very into coloring and arts and crafts, and then the other one was very into imaginative play and dress up and playing pretend. So sometimes I would have to either try to combine the two, and so maybe we would play school, so the older one who was more into coloring and working on arts and crafts would get to do that, and then the younger one got to pretend that she was the teacher. Other times you might have two different activities set up in the same room, so everybody kind of gets what they want, and then you can bounce back, back and forth between the two different activities. Obviously, safety and basic care are your first concerns. That is why you are there, so it's really important to make sure that you are meeting the basic needs and making sure that everybody is safe at all times. Children also have a really hard time settling their own arguments, so sometimes you might have to intervene. I used a lot of timers when I was babysitting, so I would say, okay, your sister gets to play with this toy for 2 minutes, and then after the 2-minute timer goes off, then it's going to be your turn, and then you get 2 minutes, and then we'll reset the timer again, and then it will be your sister's turn. So that was just a way to make sure that everybody felt like they were getting a fair deal, and it really helped to limit the amount of arguing that was happening. Remember when you are babysitting that you are serving as a role model. So children really do look up to you as their babysitters. Even if you are their older sibling, they're looking up to you and they're watching you, and you are becoming a role model for them. So it's really, really important to make sure that you are setting a good example for those younger kids. So children learn both from your behavior and in positive ways and in negative ways. So if you are speaking politely and if you are using good table manners, they will speak politely and use good table manners. But if you are eating like a pig, you've got food all over your face and you're chewing with your mouth open and doing all the things that you shouldn't do, then those are the things that they're going to do because they're trying to, they're trying to like imitate you because that's what they think is cool, is what you are showing them. So it's really important to make sure that you are teaching them what they should be doing in a positive way. So be careful to just set a good example for children, especially if it is your younger siblings. So speaking as a younger sibling, anything that my brother was doing, I would always try to do because I thought he was just the coolest thing, even though I would never admit it. So really make sure that you're being a good example and you're setting a good example for them. It's also important to remember that you are helping to build a child's self-concept when you are in their presence. So children take your opinion of them very seriously. So the way that you treat a child is going to affect their self-concept. So their self-concept is how they think about themselves, so in a positive way or a negative way. So when you talk with children, make sure that you're talking in a positive way. So it is okay to correct their behavior. So if they are doing something that they shouldn't be doing, if it's like coloring on the walls or hitting or biting, it is okay to correct their behavior, but make sure that you're talking about the child's actions and not the child as a whole as bad. So it's, coloring on the walls is not what we should be doing. It's not that you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. So try to kind of take the focus away from the child and gear it more towards the action instead. It's also super important to develop a disaster plan. So I think it's just a good idea to have at least some sort of an idea of what you would do, especially in these three situations. So if there was a tornado, if there was a fire, or if there was a stranger at the door. So in the event of a tornado, you always want to be on the lowest level of the house or whatever you're in, the lowest level that you can be in a room with minimal windows or no windows, preferably. So a lot of times if there is no basement, your best bet is going to be an interior room, typically like a bathroom, but it could also be a closet, but kind of hunker down in there. The most important thing in all of these scenarios is to make sure that you do not panic the tiny humans. So as soon as they kind of catch on to the fact that you are anxious and you're worried and you're scared about it, they are going to start to panic and worry and get scared. And then that's not good for anybody. So really make sure that you keep it calm and kind of try to turn it into a game. So maybe say, hey, we are going to go have a party in the basement. So I'm going to bring some music down. We're going to bring some blankets and a couple snacks and maybe some flashlights. And just kind of like trick them into thinking like, oh, this is just part of the fun. In the event of a fire, make sure that you get everyone out. Make sure that everyone is accounted for. If the family has a fire extinguisher, you want to know where that is. And a lot of times they might already have a disaster plan for like in the event of a fire. So they might have a place where they meet if there was a fire to occur. So it's really important to do your homework kind of before the parents leave and ask like, is there somewhere that you guys go in the event of a fire? What should I do? To kind of get a sense for like if you're supposed to go to the backyard versus the front yard, because if you go to the front yard and they go to the backyard because maybe there's a couple older children, then you might not know that the other is safe, and so you really want to make sure that you have a pretty good handle on that. If there is a stranger at the door, this one is a lot of prevention. So making sure that the door is locked, that nobody is able to just like walk right into the house. If somebody is at the door, I would recommend calling the parents to see if they were expecting anybody, just to let them know, kind of what's going on. A lot of people now also have those Ring doorbells, so they might already know that somebody's there and they can talk to them through the app. But it's a really good idea to give them a heads up, like, hey, somebody showed up. Don't open the door because you don't know who it is, and don't necessarily trust who is like speaking on the other side of the door unless you've verified it with the parents. Okay, so now we're going to talk about building a babysitter's activity box. So this is just kind of going to be your bag of tricks that you have different games, toys, and activities that you can draw from to help make the babysitting experience run a lot more smoothly for you, and it's a lot more enjoyable for the kids that you're babysitting. Playtime is so important for kids. So play is how kids grow, and it's how they learn. So understanding how children grow will help you to select developmentally appropriate toys. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So choosing play activities and toys for babies. Toys for infants are like very small children, so like babies should be super simple. That is what is developmentally appropriate for a baby. So when you shake a rattle, you guys as, 7th graders and maybe 8th graders, if I teach this later to 8th grade, a rattle isn't really going to keep your attention for very long because it's not designed to keep a 12, 13, 14-year-old's attention because it's designed for babies. So babies, when they shake a rattle, are learning cause and effect. So when I shake this rattle, it makes a sound, and then they're super wowed by it. So babies enjoy objects with fun noises, bright lights, and then also toys and activities that help them to exercise their muscles as they play are super important. Older infants enjoy activity games. So like you can see in the picture, it's almost like a miniature whack-a-mole game. So I'm sure it's like it moves very slow. But my niece, Ellie, who's, currently 2, she really likes playing this like piano thing. So that is fun for her. Toddlers love active play. So they like to be up and moving, and they like to do things that are like, Simon Says, or maybe hide and go seek, but be careful with hide and go seek because you don't want to lose any children. The good thing for you is that toddlers are not great at hide and seek. One of the stories my mom loves to tell is that when I was a kid, I thought that if I couldn't see other people, they couldn't see me. So when it came to play hide and seek, I would just close my eyes because I couldn't see anybody. But do be careful with that one. Make sure that, you set boundaries on where they can go and where they can't go. Toddlers are also great with parallel play. So parallel play means that they're kind of starting to relate to their peers or other people their own age. But what parallel play is, it's sort of like parallel lines. So in parallel lines, they go on forever and ever and ever, and they never intersect or they never interact. Well, with parallel play, you might have 2 toddlers who are playing with blocks, and they're using the same materials, but they're each going to be working on their own block tower. So that is parallel play. So it's like they're using the same stuff, but they're not really interacting. Toddlers don't understand what it means to share and take turns, so this is where you kind of helping to settle arguments is going to be super important. So you have to teach them. They don't know and they don't understand. They think that everything is theirs. So it's important to make sure that, you set timers, you allow, this child to play with this for this amount of time, and then the other child gets to play with it for the other amount of time. They love to sing and look at books. Those are great activities for toddlers. So even if they're not reading, because, they probably can't read at this point, you reading them the books is really important. They're learning how to hold a book. They're learning that you read from left to right. They're learning how to use their fine motor skills to turn the page. They're learning that the pictures on the page match the words that are on the page and the story that goes along with it. So they learn all kinds of things with books. Books are so important. They also like to sing. My niece loves singing Wheels on the Bus, so she will belt out Wheels on the Bus at a moment's notice. Also Baby Shark. She really likes Baby Shark. Safety is really important in selecting toys, so make sure that you don't select toys that are broken or toys that are going to be too small that could be swallowed. So just make sure that the toys that you are selecting are toys that are appropriate for the age level and that aren't going to be dangerous, so they don't have broken parts or things that are too tiny. Preschoolers in play. So preschoolers get along with others a lot better than toddlers do. So by the time they get to preschool, they're sort of starting to morph into like more fully fledged like human beings. So they're able to understand that like other people have feelings too. So children who are of preschool age typically take part in cooperative play. So what that means is like with the same example that I gave before of the giant pile of blocks, instead of the two toddlers playing with the blocks using, their own blocks, making separate towers, now what they're doing is they're cooperating and they're building the same tower structure. So they're working together, they're sharing, and they're taking turns. So during playtime, preschoolers prefer to play in small groups. They like to work with other kids at that point. They like to play with other adults, so they want you to join in. So I have played all kinds of games from like ice cream store to I think one time we were pretending we were superheroes. We played school and house and chef and restaurant and all kinds of creative things because they really also enjoy active and creative play. So for a babysitter's activity box, this is basically just like an activity kit that you can put together before you go to babysit. So, for example, when I was babysitting the family that I babysat for in Batesville, I was their favorite babysitter because I always brought something to the table. So I usually put stuff in a backpack. So one time it might be fingernail polish, and we would do like a spa night, and I would just like paint their fingernails. Another time it was like this sticker activity kit. Other times it was just like books that they didn't have or toys that they had not seen before because they were new to them. But if it is something that you're going to be taking with you, just make sure that you tell them that up front. So this could be arts and crafts, dress-up clothes, coloring books, picture books. So we did a lot of arts and crafts. So the girls that I would babysit for loved to do anything that was like creative and arts and craftsy. So Christmas time, we would usually try to make some sort of like, Christmas ornament or something for their parents that they could wrap up and give their parents on Christmas morning. They thought that was the coolest thing. Also, I've done tissue paper flowers, so those are also great. And I don't know, it's an easy thing that you could throw in a bag, and it can be a fun way to pass time. So really, when you're creating your activity box, it's up to you. So tomorrow, what you're going to be doing is you are going to be putting together kind of a babysitter's handbook. So you're going to be thinking through some of the scenarios and coming up with some ideas for different things that you could do. I hope you enjoyed listening to this presentation, and I hope you got something out of it.